Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today going to be talking about some coaching news in the NFL. I don't talk a ton about coaches each year, new hires and everything, but as you all see, I've been in a bit of a mode lately. Really talking about coaching. Obviously, is something that is passionate for me and everything. And I see my previous thoughts really ruffle some feathers about Ben Johnson. First of all, I've been talking about him throughout the year, but even then, what I talked about was just based on the press conference. But here's how I know, because I told you already what was going to happen, and it's happening exactly, and it's funny to me because I already told you. I literally laid this out months ago. And so we're at the phase, like I said, after the hire, people are going to be excited and they're going to be pumping themselves up, telling them why this is a great hire, all this stuff. And it's funny, actually not a side note, it's something we're going to talk about with the Jags and Liam Coen. The amount, because I was just looking for stuff about him, the amount of Jag fans I've seen online going crazy and saying the most ridiculous stuff. But anyway, we got Bears fans doing that too with Ben Johnson. And so much so that this is how I knew. I didn't even share that episode anywhere. I was like, I'm not even going to share it. For those that pay attention, they'll see it. And even though I didn't share it, I still got a couple people come out of the woodworks to downvote and say how bad it was. Like, I'm so sorry that my unhinged truths really ruffled everybody, but I told you this was going to be. Keep in mind, I didn't really say that Ben Johnson can't coach or anything, but just any critique or criticism we know on the internet is, oh, you're hating. What do I have to hate on him for? And so, look, with all that, I know people don't love me talking about coaches, but I just want to say going forward, it's not going to change. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same exact thing. So let's go ahead and get this started. The Tale of Two Cities. And again, I don't normally do this, but it's just, it's blowing my mind how just backwards so much stuff in the NFL is, and how many fans just walk right past it. And again, I get it. People are casual fans. Even the most casual fans don't think they're casual fans because, in this world society today, everybody believes they're expert despite having no information. So that part I get, but still, it's wild how many people don't see the writing on the wall almost all the time. So we got Liam Coen, who snaked the Tampa Bay Bucs and is now the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. And then we got Bobby Slowik, offensive coordinator for the Texans, fired. So what are we looking at? To be honest, the whole thing with Liam Coen and what he did has nothing to do with Bobby Slowik conversation, but him as a candidate and everything, that all falls within the same lines. So you got, as we talked about many times before, if you knew, then, I'm sure you've heard this, but the hot shot offensive coordinator, young QB guru, quarterback whisperer, offensive play caller master, whatever all these dumb things people keep talking about with these coaches. We know that's been the wave since McVay came through, and one of the latest, or I would say last year, one of the latest was Liam Coen. Now, Liam Coen ended up not, I don't know if he was offered, but he didn't take a head coaching job last year. Or actually, no, his name was out there, I believe, but he wasn't even an OC yet, so he wouldn't have had a coaching job. So he was with the Bucs, with Baker Mayfield, and as is the exact same thing I said with the Bears and Shane Waldron and everybody else. People just keep going down the line, which it blows my mind, but that's just where we are. And what I mean by that is David Canellis got the OC job because of some work that he did with Geno Smith, also Waldron, also I forgot the QB coach. A number of people got that accolade. And I'm not saying it's one person that does it, but if you want to say, hey, they were part of the group that worked with it, fine. But that's not how it goes. It's always, this is the coach that fixed such and such. And it's like, okay, how could all of them have been the coach that fixed the person? But anyway, so David Canellis gets the OC job 1 year, gets a head coach job because Baker had a good year. Liam Coen comes in this year as the OC for the first time with Tampa. Baker does good again, and now he's getting talks about, obviously he does have a head coach job, but he was getting looks as a head coach. And so, again, we go down this cycle of hot, young shot, offensive, coach who had a good offensive unit, even though that has nothing to do with being a head coach. And I've ranted on that many times. Bobby Slowik was in that same position last year. Very similar to Liam Coen this year, actually. So Bobby Slowik, Texans offensive coordinator. Nobody can tell you what he did. Nobody can tell you what any of these coaches did. But what they can tell you is that CJ Stroud had a good year. And because D'Amico Ryans played linebacker and was a defense coordinator, no one's going to give him the credit. And so they said, well, it must be this offensive coordinator guy. And if I'm not mistaken, I know that was his first year with the Texans as an OC, but that might have been his first year as an OC in general. Either way, CJ Stroud had a great year. And he was, and not like there's whispers about Bobby Slowik. I'm talking about getting interviews, offers. He took his name out of running. He said, I'm going back to Houston. Okay? And we've seen that happen a couple times. Now, maybe he wasn't having all the offers, but there were enough teams that felt like, hey, we're going to interview this guy simply off the fact the Houston Texans had a good offensive unit. Maybe because CJ Stroud looked so good. Maybe because they won a playoff game. Probably a combination of all of it. So, similar things, and we see this, Ben Johnson, Shane Steichen, Kevin O'Connell, pretty much anybody that was the Rams OC. Like, we've seen this happen. So that's not new. However, this took an interesting turn today when Bobby Slowik got fired. And I'm trying to wrap my head around this because Bobby Slowik, again, was deemed by y'all last year, and not necessarily Houston, obviously, but if the league says, hey, this person is a bona fide head coach, and you say, well, they're not even good enough to be our OC. And so within 1 year, you got to say, what's the difference? Again, they went to the playoffs, second round again. Now, the offense was nowhere near as prolific as it was last year. By proxy, CJ Stroud was not as prolific as he was last year, despite missing some time or dealing with like some injuries. Despite with injuries to the receiving core, still offense just didn't look like what it was. Now, was the offense bad? I wouldn't say that. I don't have the numbers on me, but obviously Joe Mixon had a great year, and I think they did things a little bit different. But yes, CJ Stroud struggled. So we have gotten to this place now with this move, unless something crazy happened. Let me get that caveat because I'm not there. I don't know if we come out and hear something crazy happen. That's different. But for the most part, we have gotten to this place with this move where quarterback or coaches are just taking all the blame. Much like we do in America all the time, we swing the pendulum from one side all the way to the complete other side, not anything in between. And so there was a point where no one wanted to give a coach credit, and it was just like, these players are good or bad. And there's still a lot of that, but particularly with quarterbacks, there has become much more, I guess nuance. I don't even know if it's nuance. I feel like it's just a different narrative. The narrative is now, hey, it's the young hotshot QB guru that made him good. And again, language matters, people. Let me just put that out there. I'll always say that. I don't care what anyone says. There's a reason they study these things. Language matters. So people will be like, oh, you why are you worried about that? It does matter. So when people keep saying this quarterback took this team to the Super Bowl, this quarterback made, or this coach made this defense good, this coach made Geno skip, that matters. And that is the mindset that people, casual fans, owners, they all take. And it's the complete wrong tone. Either way, we've gotten to the point now where the coach, again, nobody talk about Bobby Slowik. Maybe even if you were a team that knew of him and you thought he had some potential, nobody was looking at him as a head coach when he was just this first year as OC with the Texans. And so the only thing that made anyone say he's a head coach material is because CJ Stroud had a good year. Offensive unit had a good year. And then the next year you fire him, and the only difference, again, CJ Stroud had a bad year. So are we now just taking all agency from the quarterback? Even when, and I talk about it all the time, when Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, the casual person, Stephon Diggs made Josh Allen. No, he did not. All the work Josh Allen did in that offseason leading up is completely glossed over by the casuals because they want to attribute that success to somebody else. Now, again, I'm usually the person that's arguing no one player is good or bad in a vacuum. It's an 11-man, a team sport, 11 people. 100% true. But the opposite is not true either. And this is coming from a coach and people that say I'm biased towards coaches, which is weird. But coaches are not the end all be all. Players have a part of that too. It all works in conjunction. And again, we live in a very lazy, very low critical thinking society. So we want everything to be simple. We want it to be black or white. And that's just not the case. It all works together. And too many people can't even fathom how that works. So to sit here and say that, you know, this player's just good or he's just bad, it's not. It's a bad analysis. To sit here and say this coach made a player good or bad analysis. Because when you look at it that way, you get things like Bobby Slowik, where 1 year we think he should be a head coach, the next year he's getting fired. Like, what are we talking about? He didn't forget how to coach, people. Whatever you thought he had last year, he still got and added on to it. And so, and I don't really think he'll get any head coach consideration. And so this isn't just a Texans thing. This is a league thing because there's still 2 open jobs. And so that to me is just insanely wild how trash the evaluation is of football in general in the NFL. People have no idea what they're looking at. They have no idea how to really evaluate what they're looking at. And it's crazy. So that's Bobby Slowik. Again, very similar situation with Liam Coen, except he gets a head coach job. Now, obviously, you probably could say his team or his offense didn't play bad. They played great this year. He only had 1 year, though. So who's to say? So if you take Liam Coen now, as the Jags did, who's to say that they won't produce next year? Who's to say that if you took Bobby Slowik last year and was like, yeah, we're making him the head coach, who's to say you don't know what would have happened? Now we know what happened. And again, I don't think that means he's not a good coach. But to these people in the league, they said, well, oh, you must not be a good coach. So why doesn't that apply to Liam Coen? Why? And I'm not saying necessarily it should, but you came in there as a 1 year coordinator and you put up like you were very effective on a unit that was very effective last year as well. And I don't care if the numbers were better, still, what are we talking about? You walked into a team that was already producing, and you put up another year of them producing. So we'll see. We'll see what David Canales turns out to be. But the thing about Liam Coen, again, not him getting hired, that it's how he got hired. So to put this in a nutshell for people that don't know, Bobby Slowik, again, or not Bobby Slowik, Liam Coen, he had a lot of interest as a head coach, did the interviews and stuff, especially when the Bucs got bounced from the playoffs. And eventually he withdrew his name from consideration from jobs and agreed to come back to the Bucs as the OC, signing a new extension that was supposed to make him some money. Now, coaches' money not always out there, so I'm not sure what it was supposed to be, whatever. But that's the thing. They always say agreed to terms. And I know we're used to 99% of the time that's followed up by they signed it. However, that's not always the case. Agreed doesn't mean that you signed it. And that doesn't mean it's official. So even though he agreed to come back, the Jags fired their GM and hit him up and said, and I believe this is the same day, once the word got out that he agreed to a new contract, the Jags fired the GM, hit him up, said, hey, would you reconsider? Come meet with us. And he did. He went and did that. And then eventually took the job. So already on the surface, he made an agreement with the Bucs and then went back on it. Of course, there's plenty of people that will be like, he didn't do nothing wrong. There's a lot of people out there. Look, I have my thoughts on that, but it's even more to it. Part of the agreement of the contract, or it might not, I don't think you could put this in a contract, maybe, but I think just part of the agreement that will give you a new contract was that you would not have another interview with Jacksonville. And again, I don't know if that was in the contract. Even if it was, he didn't sign it. Actually, I did read an article that said the contract didn't stop him from doing it. So it might have been just a verbal agreement. Like, hey, if you agree to this, we'll write up a new contract. And so either way, there was an agreement. It was contingent that he would not pursue the Jacksonville thing. So he did anyway. And not only did he say, hey, I'm gonna do it anyway, he lied about it. He lied to Todd Bowles, according to the insiders, he lied to Todd Bowles saying that he was with his son was sick or some whatever. And obviously Tampa Bay, Jacksonville are in the state of Florida, and so he skipped his way on over to Jacksonville and had a meeting with them. And while he was in Jacksonville, nobody could reach him. And he didn't return anybody's calls, front office, owner, all that stuff. He did text Todd Bowles later that night to say, hey, yeah, I'm reconsidering it. Probably going to take it. And then Todd Bowles let the Bucs know. So that's how that went down. And then he took the job. That's some sleazy stuff, my boy. Like I said, this isn't one that I feel strongly enough to say like it's subjective of anything. I think there's room for people to feel how they want to feel about it. It's much like somebody saying some outlandish things that they either believe or don't believe. You can say it. You got the right to say it, but you still got to deal with the consequences. Excuse me. And so if he chose to get down like this, that's not professional to me. That's not the way I would go about it. But I'm not going to crucify him for it because that's how he wanted to do it. And now he's got to live with the repercussions of it. Me, other people in the world, fans, NFL people, whoever, you got to deal with. They look at you like, yeah, you're a sleazeball for that. And obviously the Bucs fans are upset, but according to Adam Schefter, there's a lot of people in the league talking about this. Obviously the Bucs very upset, but there's people talking about it. So he better hope he does well with the Jags, and he better like get some in writing to some insurances. Like, to me, and coaches, I wasn't really gonna talk about this, but I was looking at the numbers. Because I think most people know coaches don't make anywhere near what the players make, but it's so low that it's crazy. And we're talking about head coaches, let alone coordinators. Now, obviously, would I go be an NFL coach on any level for $3 million? Absolutely. But when you look at what the players making, it's so little. But anyway, it's moving up. Obviously, you got situations like Ben Johnson last year, Ben Johnson this year. Leah and Coen kind of. I'm trying to think who was one of the real hot names. I forgot who signed Mike Vrabel. That's who it was. So as you get to this point where there's more emphasis put on coaching, rightly or wrongly, people want the coach that they want badly. And so prices are starting to go up. One of the things that I would do is I would put in my contract, if I was one of these coaches, somebody has to start the precedence, and the Coaches Association probably should be pushing this. But if I'm Ben Johnson or whatever, and we don't always know what's in their contracts, but I'm putting in my contract, there's a guaranteed no dismissal for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is you want. I'm guaranteeing that. Obviously, the money's guaranteed, but I'm guaranteed that you cannot fire me for X amount of time. And I don't see why you couldn't. And, barring, clearly you got the standard stuff that's in contracts that for legal purposes, barring any, crimes or, heinous acts, stuff like that. But barring that, you can't fire me. I put that in my contract. 100% I would. So he better hope that he does well in Jacksonville. Because if he does, obviously, if he's going to another team, he probably did bad. And if he did bad, there's going to be a lot of people that remember this. It's going to be, because that's the thing. There's people around the league that don't like it. But then people with the Bucs, whenever he becomes available, probably won't be with the Bucs. They'll be at other teams. And you'll have people that's like, oh, no, I was with the Bucs when he snaked us. So I thought that was shiesty, man. It's funny, but it's real shiesty. Like, he really snuck off. But I said this online. If you look at his resume, it's not super shocking. And I'm not one of those people. I'm very opposite when it comes to hiring practices about, oh, look at the resume, they bounced around. I don't really like to hold that against people like that. Not crazy. But if you really look at it, first of all, you went to Kentucky twice in 3 years for the same position. And it was some other team too he had went back. He was with the Rams pretty consistently, but he left the Rams and went back to Kentucky, then left Kentucky after he came back for 1 year and went to the NFL. So it's just like, bro bounces around. This ain't the first time he did that. It ain't the first time it seemed like he couldn't make up his mind. And again, it's one thing to me if your resume, man, you just got a bunch of different jobs. But it's another if you kept leaving jobs, going back to jobs like that. That's weird, especially at the same position. So anyway, that's Tale of Two Cities, man. Bobby Slowik gets treated one way, gets the door to Jacksonville opened up, and Bobby Slowik gets shown the door to Houston and says, you're out of here. And again, for the life of me, outside of something, toxic and crazy like that, behind the scenes, you got to explain to me how Bobby Slowik got fired, especially after only 2 years. All right, that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.